Hi, I'm Andrea McLean.
And I'm Nick Feeney.
And between us, we have had 5 marriages,
4 children,
3 divorces,
and 2 dogs.
love, laughter,
And Netflix.
and pig pull.
And peanut butter.
That's what gets us through. And basically what we are attempting to do is to master midlife.
And this podcast.
And helping us trying to get through a podcast without actually losing it is going to be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not going to happen today.
Let's get the pig pull out.
Yeah, it's not going to happen today because our guest is a comedian. Helen Thorn, thank you for joining us today.
I'm very honoured. I love talking about midlife. What the hell's going on? What are we doing?
Who knows?
It's a mess. It's an absolute mess.
It is
and
a
I'm
mess.
here for it. Yeah.
I've just remembered when I messaged you to ask you if you wanted to come on, my subject, because it was in an email, was, do you want to join 2 people who are shit at midlife? And the reply was yes.
I'm here for that. I don't want perfection. I don't want to be told what to do. I don't want to be set. I want to be told that I'm normal. That this is
You're in the right place.
Yeah.
Do you know, the funny thing is, when we even started talking about doing this podcast, it wasn't about, we've got midlife nailed, listen to us and learn. We're like that. What the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
You know, like we said, we got 5 bloody...
5
marriages, all the divorces, the children, blended families, craziness, you know, everything that we've got going on. And we're just trying to do our best, you know, like most people in life are just trying to do their best. And as coaches, we're just curious, you know, as to, whilst we want to have a bit of fun and conversations around midlife and everything like that, we do want to know if there's things that we can pay it forward and make just any of this easier without the reliance of coffee and pig pull, you know, and those sorts of things.
I don't want to know about a life without coffee, to be honest. I've tried it before, nearly killed a man.
Yeah,
so
who wants to do that?
No,
Yeah.
exactly.
I mean, the coffee bit, the killing it. It's fine.
Then it could be a true crime podcast. And they do very well, as we know.
very hot right now.
Very hot right now. Now, listen, just before we started recording, we were talking about a midlife thing that only people of a certain age will understand. And it was the absolute joy of when there was one telephone in the house, and normally it was in the hallway. And if you were really posh, you had a little telephone stand with an attached seat next to it.
Yes.
Or it had a really long wire and you just sit on the bottom of the stairs. And there was only one phone number per household. So if the phone rang, you never know who it was for. And there would be a stampede of children, never adults, because the adults, it was never for them.
Yeah.
And then the hours and hours of chatting to your friends, even though you've seen them at school all day.
Yeah.
The sheer joy of it all.
Oh, amazing. It was like the debrief of the day. Like you got through the school day and then you had to, oh my God, did you see what happened? And would you believe? And I can't believe this. And it was delicious. I loved it. And I don't know how I feel hours and hours and hours of it. But then you think, my kids spent hours and hours on their phone. So it's sort of a bit like, but there's imagination there. There's storytelling. There's listening, which I don't think my kids are as good at listening. I don't know what it's like for everybody else's children, but also, yeah, their attention span is so much shorter. When I call them now, I'm like, especially because I'm on tour a lot, I'll ring them up and go, I miss my babies. And they're like, how are you? Good. How's school? Okay. Anything else? Nah, bye. Like, I love you. Okay. That's it. It's about 35 seconds long. I ring my own mum now and I'll talk to her for about an hour. I love it. I love that connection. But
Well, I can remember my dad getting home from work and stepping over me in the hall because I'm sort of either laying on the floor or sort of propped up against the wall in the hall, twirling my finger around the curly wire, chatting to my friend Jane, who, like you said, I'd seen for hours, you know, at school. And my dad's Scottish, so he'd literally step over me going, for the love of God, you've seen her all day. What the hell can you have to talk about? But we did.
everything.
But one of the things I wanted to mention to you, Helen, was this whole idea now that kids don't speak. I mean, you said there that your kids are fairly perfunctory. Is that the right word? That sounds pretty
You're
good.
asking the wrong person.
You know, brief on the phone. All it is texting now.
Or Snapchat.
And,
Well,
and
yeah.
even the texts are like, IDK. I don't know. Like everything's abbreviated to the smallest possible thing. So I find that really fascinating because I love sharing stories and I want to hear about their day. But it's blood out of a stone to get much information out of them. It's always, I find, just before bed when I'm really tired and they're like, "Mum, I've got something to tell you." I'm like, "Oh God!" So they pick their moments when they actually want to share things with you. But someone said if you want to talk to a teen, go for a long drive because you're not making eye contact.
That is a fact.
Yeah.
Sideways conversations, they're the best. Taught to me by this fine lady.
Listeners, that's me.
Where is she?
Said this random woman in the corner. No, because obviously when I used to do a lot of driving when I was first divorced, because my kids have 2 separate dads, so I'd be dropping them to around the country, it felt like. And I used to have all my difficult conversations either on a walk. Which teenager ever wants to go on a walk with you?
None.
But normally in the car, because then you're both looking out the windscreen. I was going to call it the front window. It's the windscreen. And you could talk about, I saw this thing on TV the other night that apparently and you're trying to draw something out of them. Or if it's something uncomfortable that you need to kind of educate them about, whether it's girlfriends or boyfriends or being safe or what have you. Your kids are a little bit younger than mine. What sort of tactics do you use?
Yeah, I think that's it. I find when we're doing, if I've locked them into doing something like hang out the clothes or something when you're using your hands or physical, that's when I can kind of catch them because you're sort of half concentrating on something else. So we often have the best conversations. Or if I can get them for a walk, I think you're right. The non-eye contact thing where you can sort of both look off into the middle distance, it sort of feels safer for some reason. It's not so confronting. So I think any sort of little activity or if we're playing a video game together or, Connect 4, it's a bit of a family favourite. So those sort of things, like that's sort of my, not evil, what was my tactics and kind of getting a bit of...
Yeah, don't worry, they won't listen to this. It's got the word midlife in it.
They don't. Thank God they don't listen to any of the podcasts I do because anyway. Yes, so...
But I remember, when I first separated and was going through the divorce, and I would also do lots of driving with my girls, and they were the best conversations because I was in the car for like an hour and 20 minutes each way, and we could get a huge amount said in that amount of time. So catch up on them, bits and pieces. We'd have their music playing, and I would definitely when they were going through their times that they would just start to go out. So like drink, drugs, boys, all of that stuff. I would interweave news stories, either ones that I genuinely had heard or ones I made up, just so I could broach a subject. I'd be like, "Oh my gosh, did you hear about that 13-year-old girl with brown hair who happened to go to a party with her friends and they decided to experiment in drugs for the first time, and and then one of them was ill, and they didn't want to get in trouble, so they didn't tell anyone, and they put her to bed, and she didn't wake up the next day." And oh my God, I'm like, if that ever happened, right? I said, I just want you to know that you can always come to me, right? Doesn't mean you're not going to be in trouble, but that girl. Or those girls that couldn't, and this was a genuine news story, by the way, I didn't make that one up, but this genuine news story, they decided not to tell the parents because they were worried about getting in trouble, and now they've got to spend the rest of their lives knowing that they probably could have done something to save. So it was quite a valid lesson that we would...
I mean, it's taken a dark turn.
It has. But it was a great parenting
But it is a
tip.
parenting.
And I'll tell you what, right. and I know that, that my girls, like most of us, tried something once. And thought that wasn't what it was supposed to be or anything like that. And the thing is, our job is to just give them as many life lessons as we can. But we all know you have to get on the bicycle of life and fall off it to feel the pain, right? You can't just take someone else's version.
Yeah, of course.
I'm really interested in, have you ever made up something to teach any of your kids a lesson, like you were saying, making up stories? I've got a juicy one that I've just remembered that I made up.
Go. We want to hear this. This is good. Because then we can steal it. We're going to steal this. Everyone will go, yes, Andrea, thank you.
So it's about, I suppose this is fairly dark, but it's to do with, do I even say this? He's going to kill me.
Don't say the names.
Well, I've only got one son, so it's kind of obvious who it's about. Okay, right. I was aware that my male child was probably looking at porn online, and I was aware at the time that obviously you want to keep an eye on, not literally keep an eye on it because I don't want to see what he's looking at, but you just want to make sure he's not doing it too often because you want to keep his brain fairly sane.
And the
all
level
of this.
porn.
Pardon?
And the level of porn.
Yeah, because it's the scary stuff that they can
Yes.
access. It's very different to being brave enough to walk into a newsagent and pick a magazine off a shelf. You know,
How times have changed.
how times have changed. Yeah, exactly.
good
So
old
I told him that he still doesn't know that this was a lie. I told him, I remember he came in from school, and he's like 14 or something. I was like, hey, just letting you know, I've had this new software installed in the house, all to do the Wi-Fi. And so basically, whoever is in the house, whether they're using the Wi-Fi or their 4G, as in, because I didn't want him to think, well, I'll just come off the Wi-Fi and, basically every month I get a printout of every website that's ever been visited.
Oh, you're a genius.
I shit myself.
You that weekend you're away with the girls. Anyway.
Just for clarity, everyone.
In that room.
And I'm making tea and all of this. So I was like, isn't that a brilliant thing? So it's so good because all it means is now, I can just kind of keep an eye on, everything that's happening in the house. It's just like a security thing. So I can, and anyway, I made up some reason. I don't know whether it was like, we're worried that the neighbors are using our Wi-Fi to do, it was some sort of thing. Yeah. And his little face, he went, like, oh, okay. And then disappeared upstairs. There's a little bit of scurrying about. And then I was like, dinner's ready. So anyway, chatting away. And he said, has this software been installed? And I said, oh, yeah, it was installed this afternoon. And he said, does it do like a back view of, as in rewind, like the previous month? And I said, yeah, it does actually. It's really clever. So, and he said, so when do you get the reading? I said, in a couple of weeks' time, I should get a full reading of all the different websites that everyone in the house has accessed over the past month or so. And he went, okay. Anyway, about a day later, he said, Mum, can I have a chat with you? I was like, yeah. And I was waiting for this. Can I have a chat with you? And he said, I've been thinking about this new software that you've installed. And it's making me feel like you don't trust me. And I'm sitting there thinking, you're good. You're good. This is a good angle.
This is spin.
Yeah. You're trying to outspin me. And I said, oh, okay. Why is that? And he said, because I know we've had conversations about what kind of things that you feel comfortable about me seeing. And I've assured you that I don't. But the fact that you've put like a spyware in makes me feel that you don't believe me or trust me. And I was like, oh, I'm so sorry that you feel that way. That's not why I've done it at all. What are you saying? And he said, if I promise that I don't look at it, will you cancel it and not read the report? Oh. And I said,
I'm standing behind him going, yeah, go for it. Keep going.
Come on, buddy. Yeah.
You've got her.
Yeah.
So I said, okay. Yeah, okay, that's fine. But if I do feel that I need to install it at any time, then obviously I will. And he said, will you tell me first? And I said, no. And just let it hang.
Oh, wow.
Just let it lie.
This is like an amazing game of chess. It's like, I see you've moved there. I'm going to move here.
Imagine living with her. She
You're a lucky
outsmarts me
man.
all the time.
You're a lucky man, Nick.
Is he?
When she starts a conversation with, hey, I've just, what? Not again.
Do you pull the covers up to your chin?
No, I've been a good boy. Oh, dear.
But there we are. No, Helen, the reason that I wanted to get you in today is every episode is we try to have a little theme. And our theme today is about a midlife reset. Mm-hmm. Because, you can press reset in your life at any moment, any moment. But obviously, if you want to quantify midlife, it can be any time, I suppose, from mid to late 30s through till 60s, depending on how, because you never know when your halfway point is. Right?
Absolutely, yeah.
So it normally seems pretty prevalent in your in your 40s. Your life hit reset fairly unexpectedly. Well, very unexpectedly.
Yes.
As in you found yourself unexpectedly single, just as the world went into lockdown.
Yes.
Who knew there'd be a global pandemic and you'd find out that your relationship with your husband wasn't quite what you thought it was?
Exactly. So yes, like 3 weeks before the big first lockdown, I found out my husband, or I'd been with him 22 years, had been having an affair for 4 years, and I found a love letter, and as you can imagine, my whole sort of world exploded because he was everything I knew. I'd been with him since I was 19, and I didn't. There was rumors of this thing called COVID. I think 6 people had it in the UK, and I'm like, oh, is this little cold that's going around? But little did I know that sort of, my inner world and my outer world sort of exploded at the same time. And so we were 5 days off signing a mortgage to renovate our house, everything. This was going to be our year. Like, I'm a comedian, and me and Ellie, we're in a double act called Scummy Mummies, and we were about to embark on a 40-date sold-out tour. So everything was just falling into place. The kids were a great age. And that just got thrown up in the air. And everything I knew was, there was no normal. There was no normal anymore. So I went into lockdown, basically clutching a bottle of much cheaper white wine than Pitbull, I must say. Sainsbury's finest box wine, packet of fags, dressed in my pajamas most of the time, and had an almighty crash. I didn't know really what to do. And what was hard was, for the first 3 months of my separation, when you are going through, the depths of it all, I couldn't hug anyone. I was just living with my kids. I had this sort of emotional distance from friends, even though we were calling and, waving to each other from 2 meters away. So I had to have that crash in a way, because it was sort of like burning down the house a bit. And then a few months later, after all that, it was summertime and the world opened up again, and I just started to slowly rebuild myself. And, I had a bit of a blowout, dated lots of dudes and had all that sort of thing. But I think it was after about 6 months, I got asked to write a book about my divorce, which was amazing.
And became a Sunday Times bestseller.
Sunday Times bestseller, yes, that turned out okay, because I had spoken openly about it, and then I kept getting, and you sent me a beautiful message, Andrea, about it will be the best thing that's going to happen to you. And I didn't believe it at the time, but I do now. I'm sort of living it. I've never been so happy. And I did have a bit of a terrible crash where I had like 3 weeks to myself and the kids with their dad in the summer, and I drank too much and all sorts of terrible things. And then I sought the help of friends, and I got a friend who's a nutritionist, and I did like a 3-week cleanse, and I slowly started getting back into exercise. And a month before my separation, I was going to run the London Marathon, and I'd done all this training, but obviously I sort of hung up my running boots just to really concentrate on my drinking, like really get into the smoking. I went quite hard on that.
That's quite important.
It is.
You can't do both.
No, exactly right. And it would be silly.
Just spill it.
Yeah. Anyway, you don't want to show off.
Oh.
I don't want to do all of it. So I knew that I had to find, something. And then also, a woman from a local gym got in touch and said, do you want to come down? And she was into strength training, and she was for menopause and women sort of getting their lives back together. And I fell in love with lifting really heavy shit. It was amazing. And she would ask me about my divorce, and the angrier I got, the heavier weights I could lift. And she's like, oh, and how's your ex-husband? And I'm like, he's a fucking shit. The rage and the strength came at the same time. It was so cathartic. And I started getting addicted to that as well. I was like, I am feeling stronger both ways. So that's how I sort of started to rebuild myself, but very, very, very slowly, very slowly. And the other thing that happened that was good in a way was after I handed in my book, I sort of lived off Deliveroo, didn't sleep very much. I had to write this 80,000 word book in about 5 months, and I submitted it. And a friend of mine who's a doctor said, do you want to come in to have some bloods done, which will just give you an overall kind of view of your body? and like your strengths and weaknesses or whatever. Anyway, I had this. So at that stage, I was 100 kilos. I was still running a little bit, but I wasn't like fully fit. Anyway, when the results came back, it said I had basically no immune system, no vitamin D. I was on my way to heart failure, diabetes, all this sort of stuff. And that was the biggest slap in the face.
Wow.
I was sort of confronted with the fact that I'm sort of not immortal. Like all this, 1 o'clock, blah, 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 blah. It was having a pretty big impact on my life. And that's when I decided to make a bit of a change and got the help from a nutritionist. And then over the next 18 months, slowly, like really, really, really slowly lost some weight and ended up losing 5 stone. And but did it just really holistically. Like she got me to do a sleep diary and a stress diary and not really what I was eating, but why I was eating and the emotional attachment. So it was sort of breaking down all that like relationship with sleep and stress and that sort of thing. So all those sort of relationships I had with myself, if that makes sense, I had to sort of reevaluate. And that was the big reset. But it was very, very slowly. It wasn't a week in a health resort. It wasn't starving myself. It was rebuilding. It was just rebuilding little bit by little bit.
It was a lifestyle shift, wasn't it?
Yeah.
At the end of the day. And what's very rare is, because when it comes to midlife and the midlife reset, men and women tends to be something big for them to even start going down that road. And whether it is a divorce, breakdown in a relationship, whether it's a health scare, whatever, or someone else has a health scare and they see it and they start going, bloody hell, in our 20s and 30s, we're bulletproof, right? We can do all this stuff.
What's a hangover in your 20s?
Absolutely.
Doesn't exist.
And the thing is, we don't see the cost, do we, of what these habits and behaviors are doing to us. And it's only when we get to our 30s, we start realizing that actually we can't do this anymore. And our body changes. Certainly for women, it changes massively, as you enter that stage. And it's like, you have to make better decisions. But what most people tend to do is when they do it, is look for that quick fix.
Yeah. They want the magic pill.
100%. And they think, oh, well, I'll just go and do this 7-day thing or this 30-day thing and all that. But what you've done, you've been very fortunate to have some amazing people around you that took a completely holistic look at every aspect of your life. Yeah. Because we know, this is something that we spend a lot of time on ourselves with our own health and well-being. There is not just one thing that makes us who we are and feel the way that we do. But for most people, you have to start with one thing. Yeah. Right? Because we go from this, we have this thing, don't we? We go like, oh, I'm really unhealthy. I'm going to do all this stuff. Yeah. And you go from 0 to hero. And then guess what? It doesn't work. You can't sustain it.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you got some incredible advice there. But what was interesting, something you said there, was about the health checks that you had. Because we were talking about this this morning, weren't we?
Yeah, about when you get to midlife, it's probably the first time you'll voluntarily put yourself forward to have some kind of health MOT. Yeah. Because other than you go to the doctors if something's wrong with you when you're younger. If you're having a baby or something like that, you go to the doctor because it's expected of you. But to voluntarily go to the doctor and just say, can you just do some bloods and have a look at what is going on the inside? My exterior, I kind of know what it looks like, is something I think that doesn't occur to us until we're in midlife. Yeah. What I picked up on what you said that I found really interesting is that you were so fortunate that you had someone that asked you to think about not what you were doing, but why you were doing it. Yeah. When you were doing whether it was journaling or what have you, what were your whys?
Yeah. So it's really interesting because it's like the emotional eating was my biggest trigger. Like why did I associate? So I would eat if I was sad or going, or I just deserve this. I've had a really tough day. I'm going to, pasta was my thing. Like what I really want is like cheesy, like a big lasagna or something like that. And that association with the word comfort, like comfort eating. I will eat this for comfort. But what my nutritionist said, how do you feel like an hour later, and how do you feel like 2 hours later? And now I recognize, like, especially like when I'm going out for lunch with friends, I'll be like, oh, I'm going to have this with the side of this and that, and then I'm going to have a big pudding, all those sort of things. So it was sort of reshaping all those whys as well. Like, I deserve this. This is a celebration. When actually, I always felt better if I had some fish and some vegetables. It was just as delicious. But in like 2 hours time or the next day, I felt great. And I felt energized. I didn't feel like, when you have that carb slump. So I found that kind of fascinating. Also, I'm completely addicted to licorice all sorts, I found out. Like that would be like when I was on tour, I would like take a bag of licorice all sorts. It was like, oh, I have to have travel.
Was that your rider?
Yeah, that was my that were my travel suites. And now I have like nuts or other things, or so we looked at that. And also so many people said, oh, so what do you eat now, what do you eat for breakfast? I thought, I can't tell you that, because the way I've learned to eat is really around my weird lifestyle, where she said, like, instead of having a massive meal after a gig, because that's when you feel really hungry, have something small beforehand so you're not starving when you get off stage and you eat like 6 curries and have 3 lagers. So it was sort of breaking down all those sort of reasons why. But yeah, sometimes it would be food to punish myself as well.
Can I jump in? I can see you're gearing to. What I'm really interested in is, obviously your job is to be, you're naturally funny, but it's your job to be funny.
Yeah.
And there's so much humor and so much natural conversation around. It's gin o'clock, it's Prosecco time, it's, going for a curry and all this kind of stuff. There's so much that is made sexy around food and drink that really doesn't serve us to have it all the time. Clearly you can have any of these things every now and again, but all the time. So how did you change that narrative in your own head to make, because it's part of your job as well. It was part of your character, if you like, when you're on stage. How did you shift that to make your new way of thinking sexy and funny and enjoyable?
I think that was hard, because I'm also a chronic people pleaser, and they'll be like, oh, Helen's here, let's get the Prosecco. And so trying to shift that to sort of say, I'm still fun, I'm still me, but I'm making some healthier choices, or I got really into like 0% beer, things like that, where I still felt like I was part of the party. And I drink now I drink things called like no secco. So I'll take that bottle with me. I've got a bottle in my hand and a glass of champagne, but I still feel like I'm part of the party. So I think that's it. But also Ellie and I made a conscious choice when we were both reevaluating our relationship with alcohol. We were like, we don't want to see that alcohol is always the prize, or that it's it is like 1 o'clock at 5 o'clock, oh, I just need this because I've had a hard day with the kids. And I think we feel not guilty, but we just feel like we were part of that wave of celebrating alcoholism or alcohol in a way. And I think that is slowly changing. But also one of the things I found really confronting was when I did lose weight, I got quite a lot of negative comments from people who followed me, because I had an Instagram account called Helen Wears a Size 18, and so many women said, thank God you're wearing high street clothes and you're representing me. And then I got messages saying, you're not who you say you were, you've let me down, and so I found that difficult in a way, because I said, I think, well, I get where you're coming from, and that you could associate or have a connection with me. Now you don't feel you do. So I changed my Instagram handle, but also I was very upfront about losing the weight slowly, and it wasn't always about getting thinner. I just liked getting faster and feeling like I could jump out of bed in the morning. And now I've been at the same weight now for 12 months, and I know how to sustain this size. And I'm not skinny mini, but I feel really powerful, and I enjoy the way my body, and I've made this decision for the sort of longevity of my life more than anything else.
But knowing you and knowing what you've gone through, how you look is actually just a byproduct.
Yeah.
Right? It wasn't your intention.
Yeah.
Right? You just knew that things had to change so you could physically, mentally, emotionally get through what you were doing. And some of those new activities that you did had the benefit of, like, helping you with what you making better choices. Because when we do start doing things that help us, it's amazing the ripple effects. You go, actually, well, I won't have that glass of Prosecco. I'll have
Yeah.
something healthier. Or I won't have that lasagna. I'll have something healthier, and you don't realize that, it's like that ripple effect of just that one thing. But when you start doing that, and that, that whole switch, that reset of going, these are all my old existing behaviors, and that's what I got in that world.
Yeah.
And these are my new behaviors, and that's what I got. You were genuine. You are genuine, right? But the byproduct was, look, okay, I'm not a size 18 anymore. I'm this, but I'm fitter, I'm stronger, I'm healthier. I feel the best I've ever felt.
Yeah.
And it should actually be encouraging those people, you would think, to go, hey, if that's what you wanted to do, I could share what I did.
And can I ask you about that from a, I suppose, a more personal perspective, in that, that's very public backlash, having people on Instagram who you don't necessarily know, but they admire you and they follow you and they see you in this kind of light. And then because you're a lovely person, you don't want to feel like you're letting anybody down.
No.
So there'll be people listening thinking, well, I'm not famous and I don't have a huge account, but also will have experienced what it's like when they make lifestyle changes, when they decide to make a reset, and their close group of friends are like, what are you doing? You're not the fun person anymore. You're not you're not in the box that I put you in, and I'm comfortable with you being there. And that can be, I mean, we're talking about it now in terms of whether it's reshaping our attitudes to health, but it can be any change that we make in our lives that our friends go, you're not who I thought you were. How would you advise someone who is maybe going through that now? What did you do?
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest confronting things, when you start feeling better about yourself, but your friends don't come with you. And that's really, that can be a bit of a grief, actually. That's a weird grief, because you thought, well, no, you just loved a version of me. You didn't love me for who I am. And I spoke about this with a friend the other day, and she said my friends were more comfortable with me when I was sad and fat, because it sort of made them feel better. She sort of, but she said, I could see that my friends were feeling more uncomfortable, the sort of more, not assertive, but just having that strength, that inner strength. And that's really confronting. But you will have friends. I think it's sometimes you'll have to let those friends go, I'm afraid. And the true evergreen friends, it's sort of affirming the friends who will stay with you in a way, because I think those friendships will strengthen. You'll have deeper, truer friendships with the people who are happy because you're happy.
And I also think as well, we do put a lot of onus on those friendships being friends forever. But actually, like certainly for my partying days, I don't see any of those friends.
Yeah.
Right. And that doesn't take anything away from that friendship that I had with them.
No, yeah.
But I know certainly some of them that are still on the party bus.
Yeah.
If I went back there, they would expect the old Nick to turn up. But I'm like, I'm cool with that. I say, hey, you do that, and I'm over here. We have to love ourselves so much so that we can be willing to walk away from those friendships
and have peace with it, I think.
100%.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. More than anything else, so many people say, I've got divorced but I haven't lost weight, or I've got divorced and I haven't run a marathon. I said, no, I'm not saying you have to do any of this. You just have to find your own peace. You've got to find the way you like to move your body, the way you love to live your life. And
well,
that's
what you said about food,
when
someone said, what do you eat? Well, hang on, it's like, this is what I do for me and my life.
Yeah.
And everyone, listen, I share what I do, but you have to find your version.
Yeah.
And we're so keen to follow someone else's, because you think, well, if I follow that to the letter,
everyone wants
I
a
will
checklist.
get the same result.
Yeah.
Right. And we know that's not true.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's when it comes to our health, we're sold this one size fits all, and it's not the case. And I think, we need to spend a bit more time. And I think this is one of the things that I encourage my clients to do when I'm coaching them through a midlife reset, is to actually start getting in tune a lot more and listening to their own body and asking themselves better questions.
Yeah.
Because if we're looking for an external thing to sort it out, you're looking in the wrong way.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you literally did all that, yourself, without probably realizing you were doing it at the time, and have some wonderful people around you to help that, and keep sharing what you're sharing, because you look amazing.
Oh, thank you.
You are amazing. And it's just been so great, you know, because seeing you from when you were
Yeah.
and where you are now, you know, you can see the happiness in you. It's the energy
nice.
that you're oozing.
It's nice feeling happy. It's nice knowing that it does exist, because I thought I was happy, and I probably was happy within the context, within that framework, you know, before everything. But now I'm like, oh no, this is what people talk about when, you know, and just allowing or letting yourself be happy. That's the thing. So many people have written to me, especially after going through divorce, going, oh, I don't think I can be happy again, or I don't think I can trust someone again. And I just sort of say, well, you can't not miss out on the experience of love. Just try it. You know, you've already been heartbroken before. You know you can get through it, but don't close yourself off to the wild, delicious love that you could find in your midlife as well.
But you know what? You've said this before, where, you know, you're on your third husband, this guy.
Third one's a charm.
Anyone listening, he's referring to me again.
But you say it where people said, oh my God, you've been married 3 times. You say, actually, I'm so fortunate that I've been able to find love 3 times. You know, and that's something that people should, you know you're lovable.
Yeah.
It stopped. Now go out and be lovable again.
Yeah.
You know, I can never find love. I never trust. And it would be a shame that just because of that one bad moment or that one bad experience, if you zoom out on life, dictates the next few years and all that.
That is a fact. That is a fact. Oh my gosh, Helen, we could talk to you forever. There's just so much that is racing through my brain, but I'm just aware that we are running out of time, which actually takes me really nicely to our final little topic of today, which is all about time.
I don't know what's coming up.
Even better. Surprise!
So,
is it time?
It is time. I'm like a little science geek. I love the science of psychology. I love all of it. And I was flicking through the papers today, and I discovered that scientists have actually discovered a scientific reason that I'm not making this up, which is why I loved it so much. You know, when you get older and you feel like time is flying and it's going faster and faster and faster.
Yeah.
Why was it when you were a kid that summer holidays lasted for about a year?
Oh my God.
And yet now you blink and suddenly, you know, it's Christmas in what feels like 2 minutes. There's a reason for it. We're not making it up. It's actually a thing. So I just wanted to leave you with this fascinating fact. It's of no relevance to anyone other than I just think it's really great. So there's a scientist called Cindy Lustig, which she really needs to be doing research on something else with a name like Lustig. There we are. Sorry, Cindy, if you're listening, it's a very nice name. She's a professor of psychology at the University of Michigan. And basically what she said is that when we're older, we tend to have lives that are more structured around routines, which is everything we've just been talking about, you know, being a little bit more structured. And we have fewer big landmark events that we use to demarcate different epochs of our time. I can tell she's a professor. When you're 5, 1 year is around 20% of your life, the life that you've lived so far.
Yeah.
And it's packed with experiences that are all new and exciting, because when you're 5, everything is new. You've not done it before. By the time you get to 50, bang on into midlife, that same time is only 2% because you've lived so much longer.
Yes.
And what we normally start to do by about that age is we get into routines. We do the same thing over and over and over and over again. So our brain doesn't register that this is an interesting or different or exciting thing. So it doesn't even register it. So it just lets it kind of slip by. And that's why you feel that time is slipping by faster, because you're not having these big moments that your brain is latching onto to go, you've done this thing. So basically what that means is, I feel like I need a drum roll. I have found the solution to time going by too fast. I can now slow time. We need to do loads of exciting things.
All the time.
And
All the time.
Yeah, new things.
New things.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think I got told that the other day, try one new thing a month. So that'll be 12 new things in a year. Just
and
one
you'll be
new
like
thing.
a 5-year-old.
Yeah. Absolutely excellent.
And what were your things?
Well, I haven't started yet. Obviously, don't have the time.
No, you just think think you don't have the time.
Exactly.
You feel like it's going by super fast.
I want to try. My thing is, I want to try some different healing things. Like, I want to try a little bit of woo-woo. I'm kind of
Okay.
fascinated by what different women and men have used to heal themselves. So I thought, I've loved exercise and other things, but I want to be sort of open to different experiences. So yeah,
Brilliant.
try a few different things like
What's
that.
your thing going to be?
Well, you see, okay, here's a conversation. I have done so many things that it'd be really hard for me to find something that's new. I've bungee jumped. I've parachuted a few times. I've abseiled face first off Table Mountain in South Africa. I'd never do that again. It was horrible. I cried all the
Why
way
do
down.
that? Have you gone to Everest Base Camp?
I don't want to.
You don't
Too
have
cold.
to. It's really cold. I'm
Yeah.
never going back. I did it once, and
Yeah.
beautiful, lovely. Just a one-off.
I mean, I'd helicopter in, have a look, take a selfie, go. I don't think that's quite the
You know, it's so funny.
same.
Like you're talking about this one thing, like yours is woo-woo, yours is like crazy ass shit. I'm thinking I'm going to try a new different recipe. What the hell has
Knock
happened
yourself
to me?
out,
What has
Nick.
happened to me?
Will it be Ottolenghi?
I
Who
know.
knows?
But do you know what I mean? I've done it. I've done SS, Who Dares Wins.
Yes.
I've done all kinds of hard, quite scary things. I've really pushed myself to my outer limits. And as I'm now in midlife, I'm just thinking I want to be quite cozy. But now I've got this science-backed thing.
Have
I
you
need
have you
to find
knitted a
something-
hat? I mean, have you done crafty things? Maybe go artistic.
Oh, but doesn't that sound so sad that my exciting thing will be knitting a hat?
But you do love a hat.
It actually
though.
does, yeah.
I do love a
You
hat.
do love a hat.
I do love a hat, and on that bombshell, I'll shake things up a little bit. I'll have a little think. I'll have a little think about what my exciting thing could be.
Just don't get any more software
Any more what?
Software.
Software.
installed in the house.
Oh, nice. Who knows?
Full
it's not
circle.
already in there. I
Yeah.
just haven't told you.
Look out,
Oh,
Nick.
we've run out of time. Helen, thank you for today.
Thank you for
Thank you,
having
Been
me.
a joy.
Oh,
Thank you, Nick.
Thank
you
you,
for your
Andrea.
time. And thank you to you for listening and hopefully helping us to master midlife.